Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm going to talk a little bit about price indexes today, and that's going to lead to a later on video where we're going to talk about inflation. A couple of announcements before we get going. I'm going to set up a sampling for Monday, so be on the lookout out for that. I haven't quite set it up yet, but I will do soon. Also, in terms of sampling and grades, as I mentioned, we're going to split the course, the sampling, into two parts. As I promised, for the first part of the course, I dropped your lowest three, and you should, if you go to sampling, now see a new column that will show you your average for the first part of the course. Going forward, since we're going to be relying more on sampling, you're going to be able to drop one sampling assignment going forward for the rest of the course. So I gave you the weights before online about some of the changes we're making, and this is a way where you can monitor how you're doing with sampling. Now, one of the things that I would really appreciate, I am a rookie at making these videos, so if you have any suggestions, anything I can do to make them better, please let me know. Just drop me an email, whatever, and say, hey, I'd really appreciate it if, and whatever it is. Also, what I'm going to be doing is the PowerPoints that I'm using, I'm now going to start posting those online at Blackboard. You should see something that says PowerPoints. So if that'll help you, you don't have to play through the whole video. You can just see the slides that I've made. So we skip around a little bit in the book, and we're going to be doing chapter 22 next. What I'd like to do is I kind of look at some of the measures of the macroeconomy. GDP, now we're going to be talking about prices and inflation. Later on, we're going to be talking about employment and unemployment. And once we have all these measures, then what I like to do is move on and say, okay, let's come up with an economic model to explain what causes these to change. So today we're going to start looking at price indexes. A price index is where we take a representative group of goods. We might do a survey, and we might say to people, okay, in a typical week or a typical month, what do you wind up buying? And maybe the result is that we find out these are what people wind up buying. So pizza, notebooks, submarine sandwiches, pop, soda if you're from the East Coast, and gum. And also notice we look at how much people buy of various things. So each week I might buy one pizza, but during the course of a week, I might buy 3 hamburgers or something like that. So we do need to pay attention to what the number of units are. Now, the Department of Labor actually goes out and does this. They survey, they've come up with a basket of goods. It's over 600 goods that we use in making the price index for the United States. Well, then they just go out and find out what the price of those goods are. It's very easy to find out prices. If I told you you could have an A in the course, if you were to find out the price of a pizza at Papa John's, you'd have no trouble doing that. So this is the price of each of the goods. Just go out and you find out what people are actually charging. Now what we want to find out next is how much people spend on each of these goods. If you have one pizza, costs $10, that's $10. If you have one notebook that costs $3, then the result is that you're spending $3 on notebooks. But if you have 2 sandwiches at $2 each, the result is you're spending $4 on sandwiches. If you have 2 cases of pop, yeah, I should have put $2 each there, sorry. If you have 2 cases of pop and they're $5 each, well, that would be $10, etc. If we add all these up then to buy this basket, or if you prefer group, but this basket of goods, costs us 10 plus 3, that's 13, plus 4, that's 17, plus 10, that's 27, plus 3, that becomes $30. That's what it costs to buy these basket of goods. So we start out with some year. In this example, maybe we started out looking at 2018, and we're going to see how the price of this group of goods changes over time from 2018. So suppose the next year, prices change. In 2019, pizza's gone up in price. Well, sometimes in this world, you do see that prices go up. Some prices stay the same. Not unusual. Sometimes prices don't change from year to year. Cost of electricity, for example, is relatively stable. The cost of submarine sandwiches, oh, they went from $2 each to $3.50 each. They really went up. It doesn't happen as often. Firms are really loath to cut prices. They don't like to do it. They don't want people to get used to paying less. Unless the price fluctuates a lot, something like gasoline, firms generally don't want to cut price. So it does happen, but not quite as often. So here our pop went down from $5 a case to $4.50. And we'll have the price of gum stay at 75 cents. So what I want you to do now, you might want to pause right here and get your calculator and calculate what are the basket of goods, what were the expenditures, what did it cost to buy this in 2019. So grab your calculator, pause, and I'll pick this up in just a second. Well, what we see is to buy the same group of goods cost $33 in 2019. Prices went up, some stayed the same, some went down, but to buy the whole basket of goods cost $33. Now, hopefully you're taking notes. It's a great way of learning. I've said that a million times. What you should note now is the cost of the goods in 2018 was $30. The cost of the goods in 2019 was $33. Make sure you have those numbers. We're going to be using those. So when we form a price index, what we do is we choose some year as our base year. That's the year we're going to use for comparison. We're going to say, how have prices changed since the base year? So if you take any year, we'll call it year X, the price index in any year is the price of the goods in that year divided by the price of the goods in the base year times 100. So if we use that as our base year, what's the price index going to be in 2018? The base year. Okay. The cost of the goods is $30 in 2018. The cost of the goods in the base year of 2018 is $30. We multiply that by 100, and the result is we get 1.0. 30 divided by 30 is 1, times 100, it's 100. The price index is always a 100 in the base year. It's true by definition. What really this is saying is 2018 prices are 100% of themselves. Now that's not very interesting. 2018 prices are 100% of themselves. But we're going to be using that because we want to see what's the price index going to look like in future years. So now, remember I asked you to write down the price of the basket of goods. The cost of the basket of goods was $33 in 2019. If we use 2018 as our base year, once we start, we always use the same year as the base year. So what we find out is that now, I just repeated this so you could see this. Once again, the price of the goods, now we're looking at 2019, we look at that was 33. We divide that by the price of the goods in the base year, that was 30. We multiply that by 100. So what we see is the price index in 2019 is 110. So what we see here is that 2010 prices are 110% of 2018 prices. 2020 prices are 110% of, I'm sorry, I misspoke. 2019 prices are 110% of 2018 prices. So, how about you calculate one? Once again, you might want to stop the video, but suppose the cost of the basket of goods was $35 in 2020, the current year. They've gone up. So what would the price index be in 2020? Now remember, I've seen enough students make this mistake on exams, hint, hint, hint. We always use the same base year. This is the formula. So you might want to stop and calculate it now and see what you get. Okay. Well, what you see now is our price indexes, sometimes people say indices, you can use either one. In 2018, the base year, it's 100. Whenever the price index is 100, we know that's the base year. In 2019, it was 110, and hopefully you got 116.7. We still use 2018 as the base year. Now, there's a really good problem in your text, hint, hint, hint. Problem 22.2, it's good practice. Remember, the answers are always in the back. So, I always like to look at the real world, tell you guys what's going on there. Congress had a real debate, and they could not agree on what the base year should be, so we're using a base year of the average of 82 to 84. Literally, that is true. And these are the actual numbers calculated by the Department of Labor, the Bureau of Labor Statistics. We sometimes call it the BLS. So what you can see is last year at this time, the price index was 252.8. This year, right now, it's 258.7. Couple of thoughts. Inflation numbers are always released for the previous month. The March figures will not be out till April. I'll probably mention them next month when the March figures come out. So the very latest figures we can get are for February of 2020. Secondly, what this number tells us is that the price index last month for the 600 goods in the Department of Labor's Consumer Price Index, that's the main index what consumers buy, is 258.7% of what it was in the base year. In other words, prices have gone up by more than 2.5 times since the base year. Now, as you watch some of the videos from Marginal Revolution, I steal some of their videos. We'll even be using one as we talk about prices and inflation. They keep on mentioning FedFred, the Federal Reserve data link. And if you go there, you can actually see here is what the Consumer Price Index looks like for the United States. You can see that in 1982 or so, it was about 100. And you can see how it's gone up. These gray areas always represent recessions. So what you can see is there was actually a dip in the price index during the Great Recession, that period of time about 12 years ago. And since that time, prices have gone up. But this is not really surprising. When a recession comes along, demand goes down. When demand goes down, prices fall. My best guess is when we see this for March and April, probably after the course is over, you might see a little bit of a decline after that. Okay, well, take care. Stay well. I'm going to have a few more videos regarding prices and inflation. And please, drop me a line and just let me know, am I doing this right? Is there something I can do to make it easier for you to understand? And I will be posting the PowerPoints on the Blackboard. Take care.